Welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. So happy you are here. My goal with this channel is to bring inspirational speakers to the mic in the field of yoga, massage, bodywork, and beyond. Follow us at Native Yoga and check us out at nativeyogacenter.com. All right, let's begin. Hello, welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. My name is Todd McLaughlin, and if you're a longtime listener, welcome back. And for those of you that are brand new, I'm really happy that you're here. Today, my special guest is Carroll Ann Friedmann. She and her husband run or co-run the Ashtanga Yoga program in Charlottesville, Virginia. And I had a really amazing conversation with Carroll Ann. I think you're going to love her down-to-earth nature and her perspective on yoga, Ashtanga yoga in this modern era. And please visit her on her website, ashtangasharlottesville.com. She, at the very end of the conversation, speaks about a book that she put together that I'm excited to get that helps us work through the Yoga Sutras in a practical fashion. The links are in the description. Check her out. Send her some love. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a message. And let's go ahead and begin. I'm so happy to have this chance to be here with Carroll Ann Friedmann. Carroll Ann, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you feeling?
Great. Yeah.
Yay.
Good.
Yay. You are the owner of a yoga studio in Charlottesville, Virginia called Ashtanga Charlottesville. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you come to run the studio and how long have you been at it?
I've practiced at AYC. That's what we call Ashtanga Yoga Charlottesville. I practiced there since about 2010 with Jennifer Elliott, and maybe 2 or 3 years in, my husband, who's a anthropology professor, had a sabbatical, and we decided to go to India for 6 months with our 4 kids. We were like a traveling circus, and all of us went and studied with Saraswati Jois, Guruji's daughter, in Mysore. And so that was where I really kind of got my feet on the ground, even though I'd been practicing here for a few years. And when we came back from that experience, I said to Jennifer, I would really like to kind of go deeper into this tradition because my background had been in integral yoga and hatha. And so I started, she would have workshops with all the amazing people. They all came through here. And I went to all of them. I got to know people. And then my dear friend Ty Landrum was kind of coming up as a yoga teacher in that studio. So I worked with him a ton one-on-one. And after, I guess by 2015, I had started assisting Saraswati in Mysore, which is like going to grad school for Ashtanga, because you're like hundreds of people are coming in and you have your hands on it, and you just got to be like, you get over yourself. So anyway, I did this for a few years, and I would come back and I would help Jennifer, and then I would go back, and I was back and forth for about 8 years. I would spend 3 or 4 months a year in Mysore. And so I was deep in, but I was also trying to become more of a support person for her. And so I started running an evening program at AYC, and then COVID happened. And we had this, like all of us during COVID, we were like, okay, now what? And
Now what? Yeah.
one of our old time, like our 10-year practitioners was an infectious disease expert. And she said, we can do this. Here's how we're going to do this. So we actually stayed open in person, because in Virginia, you just do whatever you want. There are no laws about anything. So we stayed open in person for the whole time. We opened our doors. We closed in March for a couple of months, got our act together, opened our doors in July. But Jennifer she had a lot of anxieties about doing this, because she also worked with some elderly folks, and she was just feeling like she just didn't have the energy for it and the bandwidth. And we just said, we'll do it. And so it was like that. It was like, okay, here, go. Wow. And I was already teaching. And I mean, my husband, Liam, and I were already like helping her run the shala. So it was just like one day it was her, the next day it was me, off we go. And so we've been
Amazing.
doing it together for 5 years. And I look back, I didn't understand what it was like for her. Like I had no idea. I knew it was challenging, but I had no idea. And now that I've been doing it for 5 years, my husband and I together, I can't imagine doing it without him as a
Yes.
solo person. I just can't even imagine what that would be like. So we very much are a team. I'm the kind of, I'm the captain or whatever, but he's like whatever they call him, the first mate. And
Yeah.
he's critical. He also has like a big job out there. So he can't, but we really do it together. And we're 5 years in. And then on Monday, we got an email from our leaseholder at the shala where we've been for 20 years. People are deeply attached to the shala.
Oh,
And
don't
he
tell me.
said, yep, he's given it to the restaurant downstairs. He's going to
Uh,
renovate and he's expelling us. But amazingly, the same morning, I had a conversation with a ballet school about something about renting space from them. And just this prickle in my head said, ask her about moving here. Not that I had any plans to move, but it just sparked in my mind. So we had a quick conversation about that. And she said, yeah, we'd love to have you. And then I walked out going, why did I ask her that? Like, I love my shala. And then that afternoon, I got an email saying, we're ending your lease. So
wow.
I know, right?
Crazy coordination. Yeah.
It was bizarre. And then
Wow.
4 days after I found out we ended the lease, we had a new lease at this. So we're moving in October to a new place. And it's a huge deal for people. I mean, when you practice in a place for decades, people get very attached, and you do. But
Yes.
I think it's actually going to be really good for
Well,
on
that's
a lot
really,
of different levels. Yeah.
that's cool. I'm curious if you're going to be, are you going to sublease from the ballet center?
They are. Yeah. They
So
have three
are you,
big
yeah,
studios. Yeah.
amazing. Are you feeling like there's going to be a little bit of weight off your shoulders? Because I think one thing as a studio owner, sometimes
Yeah.
we think to ourselves, wow, the overhead is just enormous. If I could somehow share overhead with somebody else's in a similar boat
Yeah.
and maybe pare my program down a little bit so that, I don't have to worry about utilizing access to it 24/7 to maximize
Totally.
profit, that could be a huge weight off the shoulders. I'm just curious, how are you feeling with this information in relation
Well,
to all?
it's interesting. It's the opposite for us. We had a crazy situation where we had a lease that was kind of verbal, non-written, and had gone on for 20 years, and they'd never raised our rent. So our rent was insanely low. And as a result, I had the lowest prices in Charlottesville for practice. I was passing that benefit on to my students. I deeply believe in affordable yoga. So we had these super low shala fees, and people were like, why are you so cheap? And I'm like, because my rent is very low.
Yeah.
So my rent is actually doubling going to this new place. It's still low, but
Yeah.
for her, for the ballet school woman,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
releasing a lot of financial pressure, which is great. And my people are psyched. They're coming with me. I have a few subletters that are coming with me. It's going to be fine. But
Amazing.
it was really, I think what the weight that's off me is now I have an actual lease. I'm not doing this month to month. So my friend Ty Landrum, he ran the yoga workshop when Richard and Mary left Boulder. He ran the yoga workshop there. And I was actually with him, just visiting him when the same thing happened to him. His
Mm,
landlord called and they'd had a 30-year month-to-month verbal agreement and just said, okay, you got to be out by the end of the month. And he was like, what are you talking about? It's been 30 years. And this is what happens to us sometimes, especially if we've been in a shala for a long time. It gets kind of soft. And he made a different decision. He looked around. I mean, I was with him. We were all over the place looking for space. He couldn't find anything. And it was a really clear sign to him that it was time to pivot because he had started traveling a lot. And he just felt like, okay, we can't continue this. So he ended up, the yoga workshop kind of hit the road. He became like a traveling teacher. We had a very different experience where when we found out 3 days later, I had a new lease and it was like, okay, clearly this is what we need to do. So yeah, but I think when you run a studio or a shala and it's your life's work and it's your living, it's so different. My husband is a professor. I am a I'm a financial manager. So this is a kind of love job for us. It's not the way we support our family, and it never has been.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for people who put the whole, they've put all their eggs in that basket, because that's super intense. And
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
have some friends, Hamish, I have a handful of friends who've done it like this, and I think it's amazing. I've never done that. So it's just it's a different experience
Yeah.
for me.
Well, it's so cool to hear how you're pulling it off and making it
Yeah.
happen. I feel like probably every studio owner is under the same challenge
Yeah.
right now with we had a similar situation where we've been here 19 years, and so we needed to re-sign our lease. We have been working on 5-year leases, but there's so much development happening in our neighborhood here where we've been in Juneau, where we are in Juneau Beach, that the new person that bought the plaza that we're in, when we were coming at the end of our lease, they said, okay, we'll give you another 5 years, which we were really happy about. We thought we were going to have to move, but with a 33% increase in the rent, and there was
Oh my
no
gosh.
budging on that. I know. So we had that really tough decision to make, but
Wow.
we made the decision that we're going to stay. We're going to, take on the challenge. It does mean increasing the cost of yoga for people, which
Yeah.
I agree with you. We want
I'm
to,
also having to increase all my fees. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just the name of the game, and
Well, we have what I've done, and I'm sure you do this, is I lease space to other yoga teachers who just want to teach a one-off, and they're not part of my curriculum or anything. We're just a pretty
yeah,
straightforward Mysore, and we
yeah,
teach lead primaries. We have a very Ashtanga kind of modality, but
yeah,
we've made our space available to so many people, and they're really grateful. And even though we don't charge a whole lot for their rent, when you add it all up, it really helps. It makes a
yeah.
huge difference.
That's
So we
cool.
kind of we said, well, it's that we have high fees, then I don't know, it just happened. If we have high fees, then we will have fewer renters than if we have lower fees. And we are like pretty much full all the time, because our fees are about 50% lower than what people around
Yeah,
us charge for the same
yeah,
thing. And it just keeps us really full. And it's
yeah,
been huge help to us financially.
yeah,
Huge.
yeah.
So yeah, we all have to just figure it out. But I'm also kind of like, I get a little, I don't know, I won't go on a rant, but it's too bad that these property owners can't just like respect the work that we do and, give us a break.
Yeah.
I wanted to say to this guy, does Charlottesville really need another big old restaurant? Like, we've got like a billion of them. And how many 20-year-old yoga studios do we have? Like two,
Good point. Good
you
point.
know?
Good
So
point. Yeah.
it's hard to come up against that very
Yeah.
corporate. Yeah.
Well, good point. And I think what I'm noticing too with the rise of AI technology,
Mhm.
that in-person practice spaces are becoming more valuable because,
Yeah.
there's more, we're seeing a rise in just like, online capabilities. And then, I interviewed someone recently, he's from India, and he was, straight away was saying like, hey, pretty soon robots are going to be teaching yoga. So
Mhm.
personalized touch is going to be a really big
Yeah.
deal. And then I just read
Yeah.
an article the other day that people are asking the question, like, what should I encourage my children to do as we move forward in this environment?
Mhm.
And the overwhelming response was to have hands-on professions, jobs that actually require
Yeah.
human touch. And
Yeah.
so I think a yoga studio where people can come into a space, be around other humans, have it authentic, and that's becoming more valuable as more online spaces are popping up.
Yeah, we're Ashtanga Yoga Charlottesville. Our background is very sort of Ashtanga. It's very like stay in your lane, this is what we do. But since Liam and I have started running it, we've become very, very open-minded and very expansive, and kind of we diversified what we do. And so like we have a mentorship program that we run, where our students who are going through life stuff will like have meetings with us and set goals, and that's just part of our modality. And then we also run an apprenticeship as we have a teacher training curriculum. And then when people graduate from the teacher training, they can become apprentices. So they can actually be in the Mysore room working with us with their hands on people. And it feels great for them to be able to, practice what they've learned.
Yeah,
But it
that's
also,
important.
that literally hands on, like as Ashtangi people, like Ashtanga yoga teachers, we teach with our hands. And you can't get that on Zoom, you can't have the sort of magic of being touched and held, and so that's something that a robot will never do.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I agree with you. You made mention pre-podcast that you first got involved with yoga within integral yoga.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what the transition was like, or what got you excited about Ashtanga as an integral and or hatha yoga practitioner?
Yeah. So I was at a prenatal yoga class. I was just kind of bopping around pregnant, looking for yoga. And a friend took me to an integral yoga class. And I really fell in love with because I'd been to gym yoga for prenatal, but in integral yoga, you sit down, you chant for a bit, and then you do this practice, and then you sit down, and then you do pranayama, and then you do a yoga nidra. And it had all the lens, and it felt very sort of spiritually robust to me. And I was sort of post-religion when I came to yoga. I'd been involved, I had a master's in divinity degree, and I'd been involved in the Christian church for, 15 years, very deeply. And I left that like pretty, like extremely, also left a marriage. It was one of those, big explosions, and bodies everywhere. Anyway, so when I came to yoga, I was like, yeah, no religion, thank you. But this just felt so rich. And I was like, this. So when my youngest, I have 4 kids, when my youngest was 3 or 4 years old, I continued to go to these classes, and I took a teacher training and sort of went off the deep end with, the yoga thing. And I was doing that for a while, but the problem for me was I had been a marathon runner and very athletic. And I found that postpartum was fine. Like being pregnant and doing integral yoga was fine. But when I got to the point where I was like back in my body, I was needing something a little more like what a marathon runner looks for. If you teach Ashtanga, we self-select, like we're all a little type A. And my shala is full of people who are general overachievers in their lives, super intense, super motivated, disciplined. Just that's how I was. And the integral yoga tradition was beautiful, but it was just a little too soft. And I wanted something a little hard, So I went
Yes.
to a
Yes.
couple of Ashtanga classes that a friend took me to, and they were so hard. I thought I was going to cry. I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was like, this is so hard. But then I was like, okay, but there's something in here that I really like. And Jennifer, the old yoga teacher, she said, okay, you need to come to Mysore. And I was like, where's that? So she explained the whole Mysore method to me. And I was like, all right. And I hated it. I mean, truly hated it. Like I would go to Mysore because she was kind of making me if I wanted to practice. And it was the best yoga studio in town, hands down. So I was like, I want that one. And she's
Yeah.
like, you have to come to Mysore. So I would go, and I would go with this friend of mine, and we'd leave, and I'd be like, oh my God, don't you just hate that? Was it not the worst thing? And he'd just look at me like, no. And I was like, so this was me for like a year. I was just like, ah.
Do you think it was because you had to memorize the sequence, or what part of
I
it were
couldn't
you?
do anything. I was a freaking runner. My
Yeah.
knees were
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah.
Lotus hurt like crap. I couldn't do. There were like in primary series, one day I counted, and there were 17 poses I couldn't do. Like it was just a
Yes.
train wreck. And I was like, I couldn't even do a headstand against a wall. Like I couldn't push up into Urdhva Dhanurasana, even with people like holding me and lifting
Yeah,
me.
pulling you up.
It was a
Yeah.
disaster. And I was so embarrassed, it was like an ego bonfire. But
Yeah.
something in me was like, no, this is it. CA, you got to stay here. This is it. So people laugh at me because now I practice third series. Like full on drank the Kool-Aid. Like I'm almost 60 years old and I finished third series last year, which was
Oh,
pretty
wow.
cool in my late
That's a
50s.
big deal. That's not,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's a
I
big
was
deal.
45 when I started Ashtanga. That was
Very
another problem.
cool. Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
look, my friend Ted says, "Oh yeah, I remember you." And I'm like the turtle in the turtle in the hair, like slow and steady,
Yeah.
because I have no natural talent, but I am so persistent and
Yes.
so disciplined. And so the Ashtanga system was perfectly designed for someone like me because it was like, okay, I don't like to be told what to do, but I like to tell myself what to do. Right. So I took the initiative. And then after a few years, like miracles were happening. Like I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this, and I remember the first time I went to Mysore, Todd, the whole scene. And I went in to sit in the hallway and watch second series. You know how people do that, the lead
Yeah.
second. And I was
Yes.
watching it and I was like seriously, I thought I was going to be sick. Especially like when they were doing like the Star Wars march, to the Boston Beat and all this.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
oh my
Oh,
God.
yeah.
And I just looked at my husband and I went, who are these people? Like, where did they come from? They're like Gumby humans. And I couldn't imagine. And now I teach a lead second while I'm practicing it. Like, the transformations that happen in the Ashtanga system are mind boggling. So
Yes.
that was what really kept me in the door, was this like incredibly transformative experience. And just watching impossible things happen, not just to me, but to everybody around me. Like I have people who, anyway, the stories, just the things that happen are just like, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's so
say,
cool.
yeah.
I love hearing your perspective. It is amazing like that, isn't it? It is
And my
transformative.
little kids, yeah, Saraswati taught my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old, and they spent 4.5, 5 years studying with her. We were homeschooling them. And so they were there all the time. And just to watch how it nurtured their character and their confidence. And it was just amazing. So
How
I
old are
love
they
this
now?
practice.
How old are your
21, 21, 23. And then
So
I
this
have
is
one that's
a good 12
32.
years ago or 10 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
about 12 years ago. And they're still practicing,
Wow.
and
Very cool.
their characters have been shaped by the experience of yoga. So it's really amazing. So I just wanted, I don't do things halfway, and most of my students don't either. That's the kind of student Ashtanga tends to attract,
Yes.
or people who are
Yes.
just like, yeah, we aren't halfway people. We're like all the way people. And,
Yes.
it's been really awesome just to see this entire community and the transformation and the depth, the depth of like love and commitment and connection we have to each other. When you practice next to somebody in a Mysore room, you may not even know their name, but you feel this deep bondedness with them, and it's like
Yes.
deeper than conversation. It's deeper than like sociality. It's got this like pure resonance, and
Good
it's
point.
really, yeah, it's really awesome. So we have the community in our Shala is really exceptional. And, I will stay around for 10 more years just to be around them.
That sounds amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I know it takes a lot of energy. How many days a week are you showing up to lead class? Are you there
Well,
6
we have
days a
a
week?
5 morning a week Mysore program, Monday through Friday. And then we also teach evening Mysore Monday through Thursday. My husband does that because
Mhm.
I'm like ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then we do a Saturday morning pranic. So the other thing we do at AYC is we've kicked out we're not really an asana centered, like we have so many other limbs going on. So we have a pranayama and meditation class every Saturday morning that's very well attended, followed by a vinyasa. And this is the other thing we're doing in terms of like open-minded innovation. My friend Ty Landrum has created Black Lotus Yoga, which is it's kind of like, the rocket. It's a new system, but it's a Mysore style system. And it is gorgeous. I mean, it's truly, and one of the beauties of it, Todd, I mean, if you've been doing this 19 years, you could probably tell me how many students you've lost to knees, like Ashtanga
Mhm.
is, some people
Mhm.
are like, yep, it's wrecking my knees, I'm out of here, or to lower back because of the
Mhm.
compressions.
Mhm.
So Black Lotus is this system that really delays the introduction of Padmasana poses until people have had a long time to like open the hips and, and it's amazing. Like my students who are practicing Black Lotus, because I'm teaching it alongside Ashtanga,
Yeah.
they're not wrecking their knees. And, some students who left because their knees were trashed have come back and started this. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So we're really trying to make, radical accessibility is our number one priority at AYC. Like that is like the rule. And so we use props. We use different forms of poses. We substitute poses, like we'll substitute, I don't know, Bard Vajrasana for Murray D, like whatever it takes to keep people in the practice. And it's really cool because that's not how I was raised,
Yeah. Yeah.
In Ashtanga.
Well, did Saraswati, I've had a chance to practice with Saraswati a few times. Do you feel like she took a slightly more gentle role in the relationship of teaching Ashtanga as opposed to the way Sharat and or Pattabhi Jois was holding it down? Do you feel like she had a little bit?
We were a different shala. You've been in her shala, right? You said have you studied with her?
So I practiced with her when she was assisting Pattabhi Jois. And so when we were in India in 2004 in Mysore, Pattabhi Jois was there and Sharat and Saraswati were all in the room together.
Yeah.
And I know there was a little bit of changing of situations and where she took over her place. And so I didn't practice with her.
Very different. Okay, so I was there when all this went down in 2014. She came back from helping Sharat. She would teach us. We were her little shala in her little house, around the corner. And we were all kind of packed in. And then when we were done, she would go and help Sharat. And there weren't many of us. So, and one day she just came home and she said, I'm done. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I'm not doing that anymore. And I was like, what happened? She goes, everybody wants to be a teacher. Nobody wants to be a student. And that was her kind of final call on Sharat Shala. And he was not happy. I mean, to put it mildly, she was like, you know what? I have all my students. I'm going to be fully committed to you guys. So what happened, that was in 2014, 2015 to 2018, her Shala blew up. Like we were, oh my God, we were packed. I would practice at 4:30. I'd get up and start teaching at 6, and I wouldn't leave the building till noon. Like we were just slam packed. The difference that was happening in this shala was she would see someone and she would know what was possible. Okay. And if it was possible, just by looking at them, if it was possible to do something like say a bind in Marisi, she would hold them there and she'd say, try it again, try it with help, try it with, Prashanti. That's what she called me. Prashanti, go over there and help so-and-so. And she would hold the pattern until it happened. But if she saw someone and she knew this body is not going to bind in Mari D ever, it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen in the next 10 years. She would have them modify the pose, hang out for a bit and move on. And it was like, there were no gateway poses, none. What she did for me personally was my back bends were a train wreck. Like I told you, I couldn't push off the floor and I was doing primary. Well, there's this now I think kind of crazy thing where we do all this primary forward bending and twisting. And then we go, hey, do Urdhva And people are like, well, some people can just pop up, but if they're like me, no way. And they get really frustrated. So as soon as I'd finished Setu she said, okay, keep going. And she sent me into second series. And she had me practicing all the way through to Strasana. And then, lo and behold, I could do back bends, So there was no like, oh, you've got to drop back and stand up. I would have never left primary series if she'd done that to me. So she told me later when I, worked with her for years and years and years, she said 6 months primary only, then you get on with it. She's like, more than 6 months and the student will get sad. That's how she put it. Sad, heavy, depressed. She understood the kind of aponic nature of primary. And she's like, you can't keep people here too long because it starts to get, and it was beautiful because she was just through her modeling, she was showing me how to be a teacher. And so, yes, I very much from the very beginning have embodied that spirit of yes. And also she taught me how how to look at bodies and kind of see what was possible. I kind of started looking through her eyes. I mean, I worked with her for 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm so grateful still. I mean, people will say, how did you know I could do that? And I'm like, my teacher told me, she taught me how to look at how to look at bodies and how to see possibility. I didn't learn that myself. I got it, from her. And I
Yes.
just know, and also even now, her leads, we start the lead, we finish the lead, we sit down, we do pranayama, we chant for like 20 minutes, and then we take rest. And she waits until we're up before she leaves. Like there's this courtesy, this like kind, sweet, and I've never once seen her, Todd, be ugly to anyone, like
Yeah.
ever.
Yes.
I've never seen her snap at anybody. Now, behind the scenes, she and I are very close, and I'll go home and have coffee with her, and she'll be normal. She'll
Yeah.
bitch a
Yes.
little or whatever. But
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
in the shala, she is equanimity itself. And it creates this sense of safety. People feel in Saraswati Shala, they feel safe. They feel taken care of. There's a nurturing quality. And that's what I've very much tried to bring to AYC. And people have told me, this is my safe place. This is my happy place. This is where I know everyone's going to be nice to me here. There's no drama at AYC, none. And,
Yeah.
I learned that from her. So I was never in Sharat Shala. I don't know. Pattabhi Jois had passed away before I started going to Mysore. Now, I know
Mhm.
Richard and Mary very well, and they've told me, about the vibe and some of the issues. Um, and Richard and Mary are the same. They're my main teachers now, and Ty. And they also model this incredible kindness and respect and like gentle but solid instruction. And they're so equanimous.
Yes.
So that's what I really, that's what Liam and I try to make happen for our people. And we do a pretty good job, but it's them too. They're very mature.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I really hope that you're enjoying this episode, and I just wanted to take a moment to announce a course that I'm really excited to release. It's a free course, and it's called 8 in 8, Learn 8 Limb Yoga in 8 Days. My goal is to help coach you along in the Ashtanga Yoga practice in a way where we take just the sun salutations, the fundamental asanas, and the final breathing poses, break it down with some philosophy videos as well, explaining the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga in a very easy to use, friendly course that is totally free. Click the link below, check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, let's get back to the episode. That is so, I love hearing this. I'm curious, what is the word on the street from your angle about where the evolution will track in relation to practice in Mysore? Is Saraswati noticing an even greater increase of numbers of people coming to practice with her since Shrat has passed away? Or I've heard
Yeah,
a little bit that people are planning to still go to Mysore this coming season and just everybody get together and practice and see how it unfolds. What are you picking up on?
it's very confusing. So I don't know if you know, I'm sure you know this, but Shirachi passed away here in Charlottesville. Like
Yes.
he was the University of Virginia and John Boltman are down the road. We were, Liam and I were not ourselves participating because we're not his students. And so we couldn't gain, I mean, you had to be a student to be there, but the whole community was there. And we know a lot of those people. And, we're a small family. We're like, I feel like we and Sharat students are like first cousins. So they were here. And when it happened, it was probably the biggest shock of my life. Actually, it was tremendously disturbing. And Charlottesville was flooded with people. And, a lot of them are good friends of mine. And I hung out with them and we talked. And there was a lot of who knows what's going to happen now kind of going on and a lot of grief. I then went and saw Saraswati Jois this past winter and sat down with her and just kind of talk through what happened, because she's like, you were there. Tell me, what did you see? Because she was, in India, she couldn't travel. And the whole thing was just really fractured. While I was there, I talked to Lakshmish, who's the chanting teacher. And he told me that the intention was for Shruti and Lakshmisha and Usha to kind of, marshal their forces and continue to run the shala. There were a lot of Sharath students who had signed up for that season who were there last winter, and they were kind of there. It was almost like a tribute, it was like Shruti was there just sitting dignified on the stage, kind of holding court. People were doing their practice. Shruti's not really a teacher, she's been very important, but not as a teacher. And some of the teachers were there, some of the assistants. It was very freestyle. And then, there were people who received sort of, what would you call them? Post-mortem or whatever, certifications and authorizations, because the family felt like these were coming and they didn't want these students to feel robbed. And I know there's been all this brouhaha, and in my mind, a complete lack of generosity and tolerance. But, that's just where I'm coming from. But I think the intention, certainly on the part of Lakshmish and Usha and Shruti, is to maintain something. Now, whether Shruti wants to become the holder of a lineage, here's the thing. The lineage is being held firmly by Saraswati. And in fact, there's been this misunderstanding that Guruji left the lineage to Sharath. He actually left the lineage to both of them, and all the property to Saraswati, which was interesting. Like, he left her the actual physical shala. So it was clearly his intention that they continue to both teach. And when I started at KPJAYI, there was one shala, two teachers. You'd go to the website of the KPJAYI shala, and there was Saraswati and Sharath, and you chose a teacher. And you probably remember, we all chanted together. Well, maybe this was after your time, but we all chanted together. We all studied together. We didn't do our LEDs together or our Mysore together, but we used the big shala together. We were one community. And when Saraswati decided that she wanted to start authorizing students that worked with her, so that somebody like me, for instance, could be authorized. I never did this, BTW. I just didn't want to participate in the whole system. Not that I was shunning people, but I was just like, yeah, I'm just not going to go there. And I told her, I said, Saraswati, I'm not going to get authorized. Don't take it personally. She's like, oh, no, it's fine. But anyway, when she started doing it, it created a rift, kind of an authority rift between her and Sharath. And this rift rippled through the whole community. So suddenly there were two shalas, and it was sad. It was heartbreaking. So now I think that's where we are. Saraswati Shala is thriving. I was there this past winter. It's the biggest shala she's ever had. For her, it was huge. Yeah. And she's like 84 years old,
Wow.
I know. And Sharmila, her daughter, is there every day. Sharmila is, there kind of, Sharmila's holding it's like the queen and the prime minister, So
yeah. Yes.
Saraswati's the queen, she's the prime minister, but Saraswati's teaching. She's like on the floor, holding people's feet up, doing the whole, Guruji taught till he was in his 90s,
Yes.
So she's, and it frustrates, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little, but it is very exasperating to me when people say, what's going to happen to the lineage? And I'm like, nothing, the lineage is just fine. In terms of the Pattabhi Jois family lineage, Saraswati is, up on her feet every day teaching. And
maybe the lineage part is where people are getting the most hung up on, is this sort of stringent attitude about getting a new pose and or getting authorization or certification. Yeah. So if we were to remove, and I'm not saying I'm a player in this sort of decision, but just from a teacher perspective, from seeing how it works with a long-term experience with students and how bodies do change and how the practice does need to be modified, if the whole kind of removal of giving poses as like, okay, now you've earned it, you've bent far enough this way, we're going to let you go bend far enough the other way, that maybe then there would be less pressure on it. I'm sure it's way more dynamic than just that. I'm sure there's a whole power thing that happens, But
that's part of the power dynamic, Todd, the giving of. So way back in 13 or 14, I started working very closely with Richard and Mary, and I noticed they didn't use that language ever, and they didn't take that approach ever. And if I wanted to learn something new, they would suggest it to me like, hey, would you like to try this or try it this way? Or I would say, hey, will you teach me this? And we'd have a little conversation, and they were basically following my lead. They were saying, sure, if you want to try it, we'll try it. And Ty also had worked with Richard and Mary, and he's like, giving poses? I can't give something I don't own, and I felt like this is crazy language. And so my husband and I and our students and our whole program, we've got a deep bench in terms of our teachers, never, ever, ever, ever use that language.
Mhm.
And sometimes we have people come in from other shalas say, am I allowed to, like if it's a Friday, am I allowed to practice? And I'm like, we don't use the word allowed. I'm like, you're allowed to do whatever you want, as long as you're not going to hurt somebody or hurt yourself. Like you're not allowed to fall out of a headstand in my shala. If you think you might fall, take a wall, but that's the only rule. And you're not allowed to be nasty. And that's kind of the end of it. And yeah, it really is. What you're talking about is it's sort of a symptom of a larger disease. And I personally think that the problem is not with the teachers and the lineage. I think the problem is with us. We want someone else to take responsibility for our own growth and development and for the decisions that we make. Like we don't want to own it, and it's really
Great point, Carroll
yeah,
Ann.
I had to decide to teach myself third series because there was no one around who could teach me. So I had 2 or 3 other students. We were all in the same place, or we were like third series curious. So we decided, okay, we're going to collaborate on this. And that's what we did. The 3 or 4 of us, we helped each other out. We troubleshooted with each other. We we'd jump up, and we just had this kind of, it was very joyful, but it felt so rich. And I was like, well, if we hadn't decided to just take responsibility for this, who am I going to go to who's going to teach me advanced? I don't know, like there's nobody within a rock's throw of here. You know what I mean? So that kind of, and the Ashtanga police would like turn on their sirens and come get me. But fortunately, we don't really deal with that. And
I hear you. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to connect with you because I feel like we align very similarly in relation to the statement that you made to Saraswati of just like, look, I'm not interested in becoming authorized. So I hope that you're not offended, but I just have no drive or desire. I have a very similar sort of feeling, and I love meeting other people like you that are really focused on just the actual practice of it and removing a lot of the hierarchical structure with the intent of increasing more peace and freedom for those that are around us, right? So, I mean, that is an amazing thing. I think that I'm super grateful to be in this place where we are not beholden to that. I do understand that there's value for folks that are in that sort of stream. Like I get that. I also enjoy hearing or I'm fascinated by the fact that you made mention that there was a little bit of an Ashtanga police community right down the road from you. And I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about why you might, I don't know how you feel about this. I can guess where you're going to go with this, but how we can benefit with symbiosis within our community versus fracturing. Why do
so
you
I have
it's really
John
important to
Boltman is a
explain?
certified teacher,
Yeah.
with Shirat. He he has my deep respect. He's worked through a terrible motorcycle crash. He's dealt with a lot, and his practice is like devoted, and his heart is big, and he really cares about what he's doing, and he really believes in this traditional system and the way it works. And for some people, that works really well. I have had some people come to me out of that program and say, like, I've been stuck on this pose for like a year, and I'm never going to catch my heels, and and like, I want to keep moving. And so will you let me keep moving? And I'm like, sure, we'll move, So I think for some people, it's suffocating to be in that container, but they also, because they respect the the integrity of that tradition. They don't want to be nasty about it. And I don't feel like iconoclast. I just know that for me, the priority is so far beyond asana. Like asana is a means to an end. And when you start to lock down the asana, people get locked down in a lot of different ways, And so what we're trying to do is use movement, and my emphasis, because I'm Richard's student and Taiwandra's student, is the subtle body. And so I believe there can be perfect subtle body alignment patterned on all kinds of body shapes, like for instance, someone can get the subtle body experience of an Ardha Baddha Padmasana pose without actually taking Padmasana, because their knees are going to be destroyed, but they can still find subtle body alignment, and it's not less than, and it's not modified, and it's not. So for me, like paying attention to subtle body alignment is way more powerful than physical body alignment. And part of the freedom of being out of the Ashtanga police constraints is that you really can watch a student's subtle body, light up, and you're not preoccupied with where's the foot, or are they catching, or, all the things, all the yes. external
well said
forms, and
yes.
then, students start to feel crap about themselves. And whenever that happens, we're doing something wrong, I think. I mean, I just don't think there's any benefit to that at all.
Agreed.
We want students to walk out of the room feeling lighter than they came in, not. And as a student, I had times when I was burdened with frustration, anger, resentment, confusion, all the things. And I'm like, why am I coming to yoga to feel like this? Like,
yes.
I go to work and feel like that, So just for us, again, Mary and Richard, dear friends, and just like kind of models, and also Tailandram and Cheyenne. These are dear friends of mine, but they also kind of model a life that, I want to emulate. When in doubt, be nice, just be nice. So if we do something and kindness is not present, then I don't think we're doing it right. And so when you get into like police activities, a lot of times force takes over and kindness disappears,
Mm-hmm. Well, great point. We could look at that on different levels across the globe right now, right? And see examples of what you're talking outside of the yogic system. It probably, I don't want to assume that everybody listening to our conversation is totally up to speed with the dynamics of Ashtanga, but I feel like everything we spoke of will give a really good idea. Probably if somebody is brand spanking new to yoga, the way I was when I first started, even the concept of a yoga police would be very odd to me. It would make me feel like, wait, what are you even talking about? I can't even wrap my head around that. But
you ever seen the cartoon, Todd? There's this old cartoon. I don't know where it came from, but my friend Zoe Ward stuck it up in our shala, and it has these three kind of limber people sitting in jail. And one guy's like, what are you in for? And one of the women goes, oh, I did left leg first in Janu Shasana. And then the other person said, I practiced Pashasana on a Friday, and if you're in Ashtanga, you know exactly what they're talking about.
Yes.
But if you're not, you're like, what?
What?
So that cult mentality is the kind of, it's like the underbelly of the Ashtanga system. And it's not pretty. It's not, and it's something that we should be scared of. This kind of Ashtanga cult, it's different than having like, joy and memes, but we work really hard when new students come in to cut the terminology to make them feel like they can belong and not like we're a weirdo cult. The other thing, and this is me being an astrologer, okay, I'm going to just put on that hat for a second. The kind of astrology I practice is called evolutionary astrology, and it's very keyed into karma. Stephen Forrest, who's a magnificent astrologer, he came up with a system, and it syncs beautifully with yoga philosophy. I believe very strongly that the karma ripened in Ashtanga yoga when Sharat left his body, that this was a profound ripening of karma. And, when karma ripens, the fruit falls off the vine, like in the Triambakam, like let the cucumber fall off the vine, ripe and ready. And when he passed away, this was a fantastic opportunity for Ashtanga to look at the karma and embrace the change and sort of surrender some of these super heavy samskaras we've been carrying around with us for at least a decade, maybe longer. And some people are, some of our community really is sort of saying, okay, this karmic wave has broken. And so now what? And they're looking out. And then some people are scared and freaked out and in grief and panicking. And they're kind of grasping onto the straws of the old karma, and I just think this is a remarkable opportunity for our global community to be better, than we were.
Yes.
And I don't know if we will.
Yeah. Well, good point.
Yeah.
Well, some of us will and some won't.
Mm-hmm. And we have to keep loving each other because, we're going through, this is hugely traumatic, but it's also an enormous possibility for just looking for kind of calming down for a moment, and like looking and saying, okay, this karma has finished. Shiraji's karma is finished. Now, where does that leave us? And what do we mindfully with our heart want to do now? Because when gurus leave their bodies, you see this all the time. Communities either snap into hyper conservatism or they start to dissolve like a mandala, like a Tibetan mandala where they build these sand mandalas and then they don't cling to them. They gather up the sand and they put it in a river. And here's the thing, Todd, you know this, and I know this. The Ashtanga system has spilled the banks of the Jois family. Like it has been in that river for so long, dispersing itself. And that's just going to happen. Like there's no one that can like get those grains of sand back and put them in a neat little pile, So we're just, here we are. You and I are going to keep teaching Ashtanga yoga no matter what happens out there and and it's beautiful, really.
It really
it's not a sign of things being out of control. It's a sign of the profound blessing of this and how it's burst the bounds of the lineage, Yeah. And I think this is wonderful. Just for me.
I hear you. I love the way that you use that analogy. That's beautiful. And it is really amazing to give appreciation to the entire family. It's fascinating how so much attention was placed on one person at a time and then different degrees of energy placed. But I think that now, like you said, in terms of the dispersal of the information and the amount of people that are now practicing Ashtanga yoga and kind of holding it together in their own way, it is absolutely amazing, right?
And Saraswati has been teaching Ashtanga yoga since she was 23 years old and she's 84, and you can do the math, longer than any living person on the planet by a long shot. And Sharat wasn't even born when she was certified by Krishnamacharya himself to teach yoga. So again, she's the only person in our lineage who was certified by Krishnamacharya. And she's she actually gave me permission this past winter to write her biography. So I'm probably going to be doing, I'm probably going to be doing that in the next couple of years. We got a lot of material to get together. And her daughter, Sharmila would like to, she has amazing photos of these generations of yogis. And this family has devoted their entire life and well-being to us, to Western non-caste. They're very serious Brahmins and they teach us and we're like nothing. we don't even have a caste, So there's this incredible generosity. And, I feel like Saraswati has been overlooked in the lineage, probably because she's a woman, and I have a lot I want to say about that. And her daughter, Sharmila, again, as a woman.
I want to hear what you have to say about that, because one thing I've noticed recently in relation to Tantra yoga, The more I've been studying in, and then when I recently had a chance to speak with a very scholarly female who is a tantric yogini. It was so great to hear it from a woman's perspective, and how fascinating that here in the tantric world of the wisdom goddesses or the worship of the goddess, that doesn't it make sense that a woman would be holding down teaching in a way where there'd be this nice balanced approach without the kind of extracurricular male dominant sex energy that sometimes comes with it?
Yeah,
It just seemed to make
sure.
perfect sense that women would be really good at teaching that. So I just think it's fascinating that there's still that power struggle. Of course, there's still the power struggle because the male female dynamic, I mean, we could go on, but I'd love to hear a little bit about how and why you think it's the time, why it's now time for a female woman to be the lineage holder.
Yeah, I mean, here's the truth of it is that, okay, so this is just me. I I believe this is true, and I don't have like corroborating evidence except many conversations that I've had with my teacher, with Saraswati. But when Guruji, he had two sons and a daughter. One of his sons passed away young. One of his sons, Manju, decided he really wanted to live in the West. After their first trip to India, Manju said, "My soul belongs in the West, and I'm not coming back to India." And he pretty much, that's what he did. And that left Saraswati at home with Guruji. And because she was a woman, she was given jobs like taking care of him, making sure he was fed, cooking, cleaning for the students as well. She'd teach them how to cook. You probably saw her in a kind of diminutive role, like an assistant role. And a lot of people don't know this, but not only was Saraswati one of the first people, one of the only people in the Ashtanga lineage, and one of the first people, period, woman to be certified by Krishnamacharya, but she was the first woman in India, Todd, to teach men yoga. And when she decided to do that, her father threw a complete fit. He was like, "Absolutely not." And she said, "Guruji, if you can teach men, I can teach women." End of conversation. And so he let her initially only on their trips in the West. She could teach, she could assist, but that was different. Be a teacher. And then when they came home, she's like, "I need to make a living." So she started going to temples. And at first she just taught women, and then some men were trickling in. And it was it was so avant-garde, Todd. It was like a cultural revolution, a one-woman cultural revolution for her to just say, "I'm going to teach men." And it was embarrassing, it was a big deal. And she did it. And she just kept doing it. And she's continued to do it. And I get kind of blown away by the degree to which many Ashtanga yoga students don't understand her critical position in the lineage. Not just as Sharat's mother, but also she made him. I mean, when Sharat was 19, he wanted to be an engineer, and she said, "Nope, get in there. You're going to help your granddad." Like, she kind of took him in hand. And if she hadn't pulled the mom card, Sharat would have gone on and been an engineer. And so if she had been Manju, the son, the lineage would have clearly passed through her to Sharat. And that would have been what everybody expected. And they would have continued to work together like they were. And then when Manju passed away or retired, Sharat would become the lineage holder. But because Saraswati was a woman, the kind of community consensus was that it skipped her and went to him. And it was very clear this was never Guruji's intention. And so I get frustrated because
It's
there's all
fascinating.
this talk of parampara, like it just went to him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, clearly,
Yeah.
she owns
Yeah.
the shala. She owns the property. She's like, and so I think now it's interesting, right? Because there is no male lineage holder. I mean, I guess Shambhav, but he's not really a yoga. He has other interests. He's not really a yoga guy.
How come not Manju?
because Manju is doing his own thing. He chose,
Yeah.
I mean, he's teaching
Yeah.
Ashtanga, but
Yeah.
he chose a long time ago, chose to step out and stand in his own shoes. And he and Saraswati are very close.
Yeah.
They have a deep, loving sibling relationship. But
I understand. I understand. I
yeah,
just wanted to ask you your thoughts on that. Yeah.
totally, because he
Yeah.
chose,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's still, of course, he's holding the lineage. But the thing then you go, what the heck is the lineage? You're holding the lineage,
What
God.
is
I'm holding the lineage. Like anybody who teaches this
what
yoga,
is
all the
that?
little grains of sand floating in the river are holding the lineage. And I mean, that to me, I talked about the karmic wave breaking. Here's what I think.
Yeah,
The
totally.
opportunity we have as a community now, karmically, is to reevaluate what lineage means and to be like, lineage is not authority. Lineage is not hierarchy. Lineage is not blood. Lineage is this spirit of teaching, and this kind of beautiful, elegant structure that needs to keep changing, and God bless him. The last thing Sharatji did in this world was active series, and the problem is really that active series, Saraswati's response was, why? We don't need this. We can do all these things. Like, she already teaches active series.
We're already doing that.
Yeah.
it's everybody who's outside.
God, aren't you doing it? Like, we're all doing it. We're looking at the book and we're going, he must have been spying on us for the last 10 years because this is what we do, But the fact that Shiraji and his own kind of intention said, okay, I'm going to make this like official, because I know that a lot of people in my community are really rule-oriented people. And if there's not a new rule, they won't do it. He understood his people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, okay,
yeah.
here's the new rules. And, the University of Virginia is going to teach active series, and like people are teaching it. Yeah. And I'm laughing and going, wow, we were really ahead of the ball on that one, But Saraswati's saying, we don't need an active series. This is what we do, So she's a little exasperated with the whole thing, understandably, because she was kind of out of the loop. But the point is, now I think we can realize what lineage really means. And it does not mean authority, and it does not mean heredity, and it's not based on DNA. And hopefully, the parts of the lineage that are going to survive whatever happens next are going to be the parts that the transformative, profound, the power of using shapes to heal the subtle body, power of using rhythmic breathing to like wake up the nervous system, all these things, these kind of intangible things, that Ashtanga yoga provides, and that the rest of it will just fall away. It's like when a bird comes out of its egg, if the shell clings, the bird can't go anywhere, So I think Ashtanga is a bird with its wings spread. We're out there and we're doing our thing. You and I and, hundreds of other people and their little shalas, like, we're doing this thing. And we're not waiting on someone to give us poses.
Yeah, Carroll Ann, I hear you. I'm with you. Well, I mean, thank you for just being open and honest. And I really appreciate you not being fearful of speaking your mind. And sometimes
I have nothing to lose,
you get a little scared. Yeah, maybe we have nothing to lose, right? I mean, it's a miracle every day that we can still just show up and have a space for our folks to show up and practice. And I mean, that is really something special.
I mean, look, I have people who are way more courageous. My friend Ty Landrum is incredibly courageous. He came to me when he first started with Black Lotus and he said, am I really going to do this? Like, are people going to hate me? And he's like, but this is what's rising up in me. And I'm like, if Ashtanga is a healthy parent, it's going to have babies, for God's sake. Like, go make a baby, and it's a beautiful child. So I just think there are lots of people. Eddie. Okay. So Eddie and I were hanging out a lot during the funeral, when he came here for Sharat's memorial, and we talked for a long time. And It's interesting. Eddie felt the karmic wave crash, and then he took the freedom, and now look at what Eddie's doing. Like, he's Yoga Sangha, this new
Yeah. Yeah.
thing that he's doing has risen up out of him. And it's a child of Ashtanga yoga, it's like an offspring, and it's beautiful. And he has the courage to do this. And he's not going, nobody's throwing away these people. I'm not throwing away Ashtanga. They're just saying Ashtanga has given birth to something in me, and I want to share it with people. And it's so awesome, So I hope there will be more and more people who have the courage to share the children of this lineage with the world.
That is so well spoken, Carroll Ann, that I don't feel like I need to ask you any more questions, although I really want to continue our friendship or getting to know each other. But that is so amazing. I feel like you spoke a powerful message, and I couldn't agree more with everything that you're bringing to the table here. I did want to, prior to our conversation, just have you talk a little, though, about your book. Can you explain what your intention was or is behind the book that you wrote, the title, and what the premise of it is?
Yeah, I'll be quick. So it's called Practicing the Yoga Sutras, which my 30-year-old son came up with as a title. But part of what we do at AYC is and this is, again, Saraswati taught me this, because when I studied with her, this is what we did. We sit on Sunday mornings, and we call it yoga church. It's kind of a joke because, we're in the deep South. And we chant the Yoga Sutras, and we chant bhajans. My chant teacher, Lakshmi, taught me a lot, but actually Dr. Jayashree, I worked with her for a very long time. A lot of us have learned how to chant from Jayashree. So we chant her version of the Yoga Sutras, and then we chant, the Ganesha bhajans and the Guru Ashtakam and all those things together. And then we have been studying. We just go through the sutra. It's like a little Bible study, but it's a sutra study. And we've been doing this for 15 years, and we're finally in book 4. It took that long. So through this process of chanting, talking, studying, sharing our experiences, it's been so rich. A book rose up. What I realized was that the Yoga Sutras, there are tons of Yoga Sutra books, and they're amazing. But what was lacking was seeing the Yoga Sutras not as a philosophical system, but as a practice manual. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to write a book that invited people to personalize, like deeply personalize the sutras, to actually reflect individually. So the book itself, I have a sutra and the translation and a commentary, and then a question and a little bubble inside the book. It's like a journal to write your reflections on the bubble. And then just keep going. And it goes through all 4 books, every single sutra. So it doesn't like some of the people who've gotten back to me on it are like, oh my gosh, you do books 3 and 4. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because usually commentaries 1 and 2 and then 3, 4, I was like, no, we're going to give it all equal, and it's been wonderful because it's given me a chance to share in a book form. My background is in academics, and I like to write, so to share in a book form, the kind of wealth of practical, embodied knowledge in the Yoga Sutras, not just this, but how to take the sutras and live in them, inhabit them, and how to let them basically repattern the mind in a way that creates very real, tangible impact in a life. And it was just super fun to write. And so now, I go to teacher trainings and do little sutras workshops, and I do them at the ashram at Yogaville. And I still get really sweet letters. The book's been out for a little over a year, and people are still sending me emails saying, yeah, this is really hard at first because you were asking me to be really honest every single time. And I got kind of freaked out by that. But then when I just said, okay, because it's all self-reflection, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. It is not an academic or an intellectual book, although, I read 10 intellectual books to prepare it. it's really designed to be a very deep, personal, kind of existential encounter with the text.
Wow, very
Yeah,
cool. Well, I'm gonna get a copy and work through
do.
it, and
Yeah,
I'll reach back out to you with some
I'd love
feedback.
to
That
hear.
sounds so
Yeah,
cool.
I'd
And
love
for
to
everyone
hear.
listening, the link is in the description. They can go to your website,
You can
from
get
your
it from
website,
Amazon. It
and
takes a
find it
few
on
days,
Amazon.
or
Okay,
you can
cool.
get it from directly from the publisher. Either way,
Nice.
or you can come
Nice.
see me in Charlottesville, and I'll hand you one.
Oh man, I would love to come visit next time I make my way up into Virginia. I have
Yeah.
family over in Tennessee, which isn't too far
Ah,
away. So I'll definitely make a
the people
point.
are from Tennessee. That's cool. Yeah, I
We
would
had
love to have you. We have a lot of
oh,
we call it
thank
the global, there's a global Ashtanga diaspora, and there are people who like don't have a shala where they live, and so they'll pass by and pop in and go, "Oh, look, people I can practice with," and it's we're kind of like the Catholic Church, Todd. You show up at any shala anywhere, and they're doing the same thing, and it's so comforting.
I hear you. That is a fascinating component of ritual, right? When
Yeah,
there's a
it's wonderful.
ritual, and I agree.
And you're like, these
Well,
are my people. I found them. They're right
right?
here. Yeah. Well, it's
Well, thank
great
you
to meet you,
so
Todd.
much,
I hope
Caroline.
we get to spend some time together, like in person sometime.
I agree. Everyone's had so many nice things to say about you that had practiced with
Thank
you and
you.
come down and
Yeah.
visited here. So I really appreciate the introduction that was made for us by Tim Rennick, actually, was the one who came in
Oh,
and
he's so
have you
great.
ever
Yeah.
interviewed Carroll Ann? And so
Aw.
yeah, he's really sweet. So thank you so much.
Soon.
And
And he's coming. Ty's doing a workshop here in November, and Tim's going to come. So I'm looking forward to that.
that's cool. When Tim was here, he was practicing the Black Lotus sequence in the
Yeah.
Mysore room. And so it was fun
What'd you
to
think?
watch.
Pretty fun,
Really
huh?
cool. Yeah, really
Yeah.
a nice
Very
blend of,
vinyasa-y.
yes, yep,
Yeah, but
super.
it's so intelligent and so well designed. And it has this beautiful balance between forward bending and backward bending, even in the first series, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's room for everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool too to have somebody come in and practice a sequence that is Ashtanga like,
Yeah.
but a little different, and have
It's
everybody
so
in the
you
room
can see the
together.
Ashtanga
And
patterning really strongly. And
yeah.
good on you for letting him do that. Go, Todd. It's
Well,
like
oh
not
gosh.
everybody would
Well,
do that. No,
oh,
seriously, some people would be like, "What are you doing? Get out of here."
oh.
Yeah,
I mean, life is way better when you make room for variation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I'm glad. Well, I'll get down there at some point. And you've got such a pretty space. I can see by looking at it behind you.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. Thank
Good
you
luck
so
with your
much.
rent.
I I know, right?
Yeah, you need to get a big Lakshmi Murti and stick it up there and do some pujas to it.
For sure, for
Yeah,
sure. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. I have a feeling we're going to bump into each other in person here
I
very
hope so. All
soon.
right. Thank you so much. See you
Thank you.
soon. Bye bye.
Native Yoga Toddcast is produced by myself. The theme music is dreamed up by Bryce Allen. If you like this show, let me know. If there's room for improvement, I want to hear that too. We are curious to know what you think and what you want more of, what I can improve. And if you have ideas for future guests or topics, please send us your thoughts to info@Native Yoga Center. You can find us at nativeyogacenter.com. And hey, if you did like this episode, share it with your friends, rate it and review, and join us next time.
Well, yeah, now.